even though we're live, this is going to be edited out of the final thing. So let's see. Let me post this on the Twatters.
Does anybody have actually watched the live version?
Yeah, no. We get people that stream in occasionally.
I've been considering going live with one of my podcasts, but I'm just too lazy and too inconsistent.
Yeah, I like to do a little pregame live, so that for the people who are paying attention, who are following it live, they get a little treat that's not going to be for anybody else, and it's just going to get.
I do that too. I just don't do it live. I do a pre and post show that goes up on like Patreon and the other places that people can send money to, but podcast itself is separate. Yeah. I don't know. Everything about StreamYard, somebody who's been trying to introduce me to that recently.
StreamYards is really easy to do. I really don't like all the branding that's all over it, and you have to pay for it to get their branding removed. So it says StreamYard all over the place. It seems really low effort.
Yeah, screw that then. I think the low effort was the reason the one guy was trying to sell me on it, because they use it and they're like, "Oh man, it's so great, it's so easy." I'm like, "Well, I do like easy because I've become lazier and lazier over the years." I mean, I used to be the one that was obsessed with editing my audio. You're the one who pushed me over the edge and were like, "Dude, just put it out the way it is."
Yeah.
And finally, I was like, "Fine."
Let's see.
I'm lucky if I get a podcast out a month these days. So.
Yeah. I was doing really bad on the because I have my supporters stuff, and my supporters stuff. What I usually do is I'll just record stuff in my car, when I'm thinking and I'm on my way to work or on my way home from work, or if I show up to work early because I overestimated traffic, I'll just sit in the parking lot and be like, something just popped in my head and I just want to talk about it. Recently I've been talking a lot about Ross Perot, and I don't know why.
That is kind of odd. I mean,
but it's really not
almost 30 years since he was relevant.
Yeah, and he's dead now.
We're getting old, man. Is he dead now? I didn't even remember.
Yeah, I think he died 4 years ago, in 2018. I want to say it was about the same time frame that McCain died, which I guess we'll get into. But no, there wasn't really so much that I was talking about him. I was talking more about how he was kind of the basis for kind of the kind of right populism we're seeing today. He was the starting point of the modern there's always been right populists, but he's kind of the starting of it starting to get popular. Because basically Trump was Ross Perot. I think because he was a hardcore Democrat, or Trump was, and but an 80s Democrat. But then when Ross Perot ran, he was you could tell that's when he kind of switched. He joined the Reform Party, which was Ross Perot's party, and actually ran for president in 2000.
Well, I mean, Perot was a little nutty, but he Trump seems more like what you get when you order Ross Perot off a Wish.
Mm-hmm. You got so stealing that. Should have saved that for the show.
Yeah, write it down because I'll forget it in 5 minutes anyway. See, this is why I always had to watermark my memes, not because I really care, but I couldn't remember which ones I put out.
Yeah.
I'd see 1 month later and go, "That's really funny," and somebody go, "Dude, you made that." I was like, "Really?" Sad thing is I don't even smoke that much anymore, but I'm still a retarded stoner. Oh man. Yeah, you could feel free to steal that and use it as a tweet if you want. I don't care.
What is your Twitter handle again? I never remember.
Now I switched it after all those years. Now it's the Soul of Silas. S-O.
There it is.
Isn't it? S-O-U-L-E.
Got it.
Yeah,
I'm quoting you. All right. So are you kind of caught up on it? There's
I mean, like I said, I went 30 to 50 comments deep, and I saw nothing. The only positive stuff were people who were responding to the original tweeters, but everybody, "What's the matter with you? You're deplorable."
Yeah.
My favorite is the people that go, I hate McCain and his daughter, but this is like, well, dude, if you hate them both and you understand, like, you have a good reason for hating them both, then what does
Well,
it matter?
hold on, wait,
Like,
save that for the show.
okay.
But that's pretty much what I want to talk about. I also want to talk a little bit about like my problems with the Libertarian Party, especially like after talking to a lot of them after this whole thing happened on Twitter. Some of the insane shit that I've seen, but my kind of experience with like the Libertarian Party and how just awful they are.
I mean,
and we'll lead into that with the jokey intro.
It's been years, but I left. I left because I joined the party, and then I dealt with all the idiots, and I was like, yeah, I'm done with you guys.
Yeah, I'm kind of done with them too. But then I like this morning I was like, you know, after I was, you know, I was like, there's really nothing for show prep that we need to talk about. That's not going to be like super important except for this, because this is kind of like the big thing right now.
Yeah,
and it's worth talking about because I think there's some broader things we can talk about in regards to that and the Libertarian Party. But there is I fucking brain farted. Forgot where I was going with that. I need more caffeine. I was looking for libertarian kind of like groups that are unaffiliated with the Libertarian Party in San Antonio, and there is nothing.
That's not surprising.
Yeah, I know that well, it's not there in New York. They all moved to Texas, but New York had like the Hammond Herman Hoppe High Preference Hour.
Yeah. Well, that was in the city. I mean, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we can get into this too, but I mean, heck, when I joined the party back in, what was that, 2013? It was literally 3 people in the local party that I joined.
Jeez.
Me and my buddy Nolan were like numbers 4 and 5 at the time.
It's just like a handful of people sitting around in a room fucking thinking up clever names for each other. That's pretty much all it is at that point.
Yeah. Well, that one was actually different because it was 2 old school libertarians who were basically anarchists, but who were the types that were like, well, we just want to put people on the ballot anyway. We just want to keep our name there.
There's actually an article I want to talk about. It was written by one of the guy. Oh, here we go. Yeah. So we need to talk about this. I don't know how you were in national divorce, but we should definitely talk about that too. This is also related to the LP because this guy is like the head of...
I'm a big fan. I'm a big fan of national divorce.
Sweet.
I'm a big fan of individual divorce. I've long been for the whole Roth. I've long been for the whole Rothbard, you know, secession.
Hello.
Even though I haven't reached that age yet, I can't bring myself to use terms like based. I feel like such a boomer.
Gen Z or Gen X, excuse me.
Yeah, I'm close enough, man. I'm at the tail end of Gen X. I'm boomer territory by now.
Oh, we should talk about that generation. How we're actually Zennials. All right. So I got my intro. I got some show prep. That's the show prep.
Excellent.
All right. Let me close the chat. So for those of you who are just now popping in or something, it doesn't look like anybody's popping in, but the statistics always lagged. If you want to do super chats, we're going to do super chats at the end. Get them in during the show. We're going to ignore chat the entire time until after we're done, and then we're only going to read super chats. And if there's no super chats, then if something catches my eye by luck, which probably won't happen, then we'll read it. And of course, everything is going through because we don't want to give YouTube money. Everything's going to go through Streamlabs. Okay, so I guess quiet on the set. We'll do intro. You can't hear my air conditioner, can you?
No, because I can only hear mine. But if you can hear mine and I can't hear yours, we're good.
I think we're good. The Lolberts, that's our word. I'm Jim Jesus, and we are here with Jeremy Warpigburger. The Lolberts is... The Lolberts is brought to you by the Libertarian Party. Ever feel like you wanted to sit around in a room with a bunch of nobodies thinking up interesting names for each other? Your search is over. Sign up today and get a free online class, like getting mad at the Libertarian National or Libertarian New Hampshire's Twitter accounts, or my personal favorite, feeling important because you're a key member in a group nobody really cares about. Sign up at lp.org today. How are you, Jeremy?
I am spectacular, Jim. How are you?
Fantastic. Yesterday was an interesting anniversary that I completely forgot about until I was reminded by the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire. Geez. So I just showed it to you. You were kind of clueless on this. Libertarian Party. They actually made 2 tweets. There's actually one that I'm kind of a little bit upset about, sort of, because I don't think it's good. But the other one the one that everybody's upset about is a tweet of a picture of John McCain's casket with Meghan McCain crying over the casket with the words "Happy Holidays," because as you know, or as you were just informed this morning, that this was that was the 4-year anniversary of John McCain's death, where he died from cancer from a tumor. Even though he's been cancerous the entire time.
I was gonna say I always thought of him as a tumor, so it was kind of ironic that's how he went out.
Yeah, and and most of the responses that you see in the comment section are people like, I think it was even added to the list. Which are you familiar with the list?
Which list?
I forget the guy's. I always forget the guy's name, and then everybody always tells me, "Oh, you mean like I think his name is Siraj." Siraj's list. So Siraj is a guy who I highly recommend you maybe not follow him. Like his Twitter account's good too, but he has this one called The List, which is at the list comes for all, and it's a list that he puts out every week, and it's the top 10 people on Twitter every week that need to have their phone taken away because they said something stupid, and the Libertarian Party had 2 tweets that made the Libertarian Party of New Hampshire had made 2 tweets. It was this one, and then the other one that actually was kind of like bothersome to me was raise the minimum wage to 6 million or you're anti-Semitic. Bro.
Oh,
yeah.
See, now as an old timer in the edgelord game at this point in my life, those are both just like trying to be edgy. I don't know. I find the first one funny. I'm sorry, not sorry. But the second one, I think I'd have to agree with you. That's like kind of ridiculous. I don't know. They're probably both ridiculous to a certain segment of the population, but I think that one. I've seen them post stuff like I don't spend that much time on Twitter anymore. I usually pop in like once a week maybe and check some things out, and I just. The innate boomer in me, I can't get into it, man. I try, and then like I get like people just respond way too fast, and the conversations flow back. Like all you guys have been there for so long, are so used to doing that. I just can't get myself into doing it. So I after half an hour I get frustrated and give up. But that just seems like par for the course with these guys, with especially some of the LP account, some of the LP party accounts. I know they're like that. Is it Kentucky that does a lot of ones like that? Maybe 2.
Yeah, I think Kentucky is doing it. Texas doesn't really do it so much. Like sometimes they'll get like right on the edge of being being edgy, like right on the border, but stop just before it becomes edgy. And then like the next tweet would be kind of like, bro, what are you posting? But I think ever since like kind of Mises Caucus kind of takeover, it's just kind of been riding the usual line that the Libertarian Party tweets probably should take according to conventional wisdom.
Yeah.
For what it's worth. For good or ill. But when I first saw this tweet, the Happy Holidays one, like my knee-jerk reaction was, well, this is funny, but then like it was like, well, wait a minute, this is an official like Libertarian Party Twitter account, and we can all talk bad about the Libertarian Party, and by the way, don't worry, we will today. We'll be bashing the shit out of them today. But I think for most people, in most people's eyes, when they think libertarian, like what do the libertarians believe? They're not going to go to Mises.org. They're not going to go ask people on Twitter. They're not going to go to even someone like Molyneux, which definitely Molyneux now, because he's not even on any platforms most people have heard about. They're not going to go to any of those types of people. What they're going to do is they're going to look to the Libertarian Party because they're a political thing, right? You could say as well, it's not political, but at the end of the day, it's a political philosophy.
It wasn't supposed to be, but that's exactly like that's the modern day. That's what it is. Yeah. Even with the takeover, they can talk all they want about wanting to be more of just the platform to get the voice out there. Like they made those claims, but they still want to get people elected. So they're a political party. You can't avoid it.
Andrew McCurdle kind of even after the takeover was boasting about like, what are you talking about? Like we still had more people elected during the takeover. Like from the time they had it to the time we took it over, in that process, more people were elected to public office. And it's like, okay, but that's not the point of the LP. Like the LP was always supposed to be, according to the people who founded this thing, was supposed to be like, we're a political party because this is a platform that everybody pays attention to every 2 to 4 years. And if they're going to provide a platform, at least we need to get their ideas out there. If someone gets elected, cool, but that's not the point. Like the point is just to have this be a platform. Now you could disagree with that.
That was always. Well, no, that was. I mean, that's in the writings. What was his name? Was it David something? I forget the guy who's.
David Nolan, I think it was.
Yeah, it was definitely Nolan. Yeah, I think he's the one who's credited with like being the originator. I mean, Rothbard was in there early on, but he was like Nolan was like the originator, and that was when he wrote out the original platform. Like, it was like it wasn't even secondary. It was like way down on the list getting people elected. It was like you said, it was pretty much just like if by happy circumstance they get elected, great. But yeah, we're just here to promote our ideas.
Yeah. So I mean,
I'm not against, but
yeah, like that's fine. And not only that, but the Libertarian Party has been pretty good. I don't know about all the details of every little thing. I know they're trying to get 5% so they can get federal backing funds, which maybe not be libertarian, but I don't know how that thing works. I have heard someone mention that like it's voluntary. Like you can actually pay extra when you register to vote or something like that, and that's the money that goes to all that stuff. I don't know. So I could be wrong, but if it's not the case that that it is coming from taxpayers, then that federal matching funding wouldn't be good. Correct me, by the way. Correct me if I'm.
Yeah.
Correct me if that money is coming voluntarily.
Yeah, I have no idea, but I'll just say, I mean, I don't know, man. My philosophy on all that type of stuff has changed so much over the years, and at this point, I'm just like, well, okay, they're gonna take that money. That money's gonna be there anyway. It's already been taken.
Yeah.
So like, not that I do it, but I have less of a problem with like people like my buddy Drew Sample, who is all about taking whatever federal funding he can get his hands on, and has been doing it for years and been living quite a great life. And it's like, well, you know what? I used to be very against that, but I'm like, they took it already anyway, man. Whatever. You know what?
Yeah.
Screw it. It's not like, I don't know. I've come to the point where it's just like, listen, I hate the state. I wish the state wasn't here, but you know what? The reality is it is here. It ain't going anywhere anytime soon. So, yeah, you got to work within certain boundaries because it's already there anyway. So, make the best of it.
Yeah.
Whatever.
So
yeah, I don't care if they take that money or not. It's already been taken in the first place, man. Quit complaining about it.
Yeah, but the LP National has been getting pretty spicy. The Libertarian Party of New Hampshire is definitely spicy. Kentucky is definitely spicy. But my first reaction was like, yeah, this is bad for a political party to do this when people are looking. But then I was like talking to a couple of my friends, my internet friends, Danny Duchamp, which, by the way, he has a great YouTube channel, even though he's wrong about NFTs and mental health and Star Wars. Another thing is he's really good. He's got a great YouTube channel. And one of his kind of friends, Bones the Rabbit, and they were like, no, like this kind of shock thing is like what gets people's attention. This is what gets the conversation going. And then like while he was explaining it, I was thinking about all of the people who have told me their kind of transition story to becoming a libertarian. And I was trying to think of a person who didn't have a transition that really wasn't like, who wasn't shaken, right? Most of the people I've talked to who are libertarians told me that it was like Ron Paul, being a Republican and taking a hard stand, not just against the Iraq war, but Afghanistan as well. Or his, statement that, no, it was the reason why 9/11 happened was because, was blowback from the FBI and CIA and all the wars that we do over there. And even the FBI recognized that. That was a shock to a lot of people. And when he was saying like, yeah, we should legalize heroin, that was like, it's usually that kind of shock moment where everybody goes like, that's fucking crazy. And the conventional wisdom would say, don't say those things, water it down so that's digestible to most people. But every time the Libertarian Party does that, nobody cares. Nobody pays attention to it. It barely gets any retweets, and it's only getting, support from people who already support them. It's only when they have these kind of like shake up moments where people actually have this dialogue. And for me, it wasn't the Libertarian Party. It wasn't Ron Paul because I came before, the Ron Paul revolution. Mine was Penn and Teller's bullshit. And if you had seen Penn and Teller's bullshit, they're not watering it down and making it like friendly to you. They're cussing you out for believing these things and explaining to you like very aggressively why these things are wrong. And that was kind of like my detransition from kind of being well, at the time I was like a moderate Democrat, but I had come originally from like the progressive Green Party stuff. But that was kind of like my wake up moment, and then reading Rothbard tricked me into becoming a full ANCAP, but that's a whole other story. But I'm trying to think of at least one person who didn't have that kind of radical shakeup. And I think this kind of tweet is that kind of radical shakeup, because now everybody is kind of forced into like, well, this is a terrible take. Well, it's like, well, is it a terrible take? John McCain was a war criminal. He was like he's the reason why we still have Obamacare on the books. Like he was like the deciding vote. Like he has a complete legacy of just being a war hawk, a warmonger, and a war criminal. What good is him? And then, the kind of shift had been like, well, it brings in, Meghan McCain. Like Meghan McCain, she just lost her father. That's a terrible thing to, to insult. But it's like, well, what has Meghan McCain ever done besides defend his legacy and push politicians to continue his legacy in warmongering and war crimes and shit like that? Like, there's nothing good about this woman. And not only that, but for other reasons, she's a complete bitch. Oh, not only that, but she also wants to detain Americans in Gitmo without trial. Yeah, like she's an absolute monster as well. Just because she didn't have the reins of power, she just never had the reins of power, doesn't mean that she can't push people in that direction, which she has. I mean, she's had a big platform on shows like The View, which I don't think anybody takes seriously except for Karens. And even then, her kind of role on the show is to be the kind of token conservative to laugh at. But still, I mean, there's still a lot of people who listen to her. Probably only because she has a big chest, but they still listen to her. But that's pretty much it. So no, like I don't think there's any redeeming value. And not only that, but her mom's still heavily involved in politics. She thinks she's the ambassador to the UN.
Yeah, I have no idea about that. But yeah, I mean, like you said, you showed this to me this morning, and that was my first thought too. It's like, these people are horrible individuals.
Yeah,
and that's what I got. That's why I got a kick out of reading a lot of the responses to that tweet. Because, like I said, I skimmed through the first 50 or so, and I found a bunch of them that would outright say, I hated both of, like, I hate Meghan McCain. I hated her father, but it's like, well, yeah, there is no blood
butts
there, man. Like, these people are.
Well, she has a big butt.
Well, that's probably true too. I barely even know. Like, I had to look at her face to go, oh, yeah, that's what she looks like. I forgot by now. But this is typical for so many people, though. There's always this lionization of these people after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not even after they're dead. I mean, look how many people did an about face at this point during the Trumpy-kin years about George Bush. Everybody was loving George Bush and talking about, like, you all hated him back then, and for good reason. But now all of a sudden, now you're yearning for the days of this. This is just like
it's still going on. Like when Liz Cheney was up for she was getting primaried in her home state of Wyoming. What is with people in Wyoming that I'm not particularly fond of? Anyways, but that aside, yeah, but she was getting primaried there. Everybody was like, I disagree with Dick Cheney. Like, but like when he says someone is bad, we should listen. It's like, yeah, but you didn't listen when he said that about, was it John Kerry? You didn't listen to them when he was saying the same thing about Al Gore and Joe Lieberman, which, by the way, Joe Lieberman and Al Gore and all of them, they're all terrible too. But you didn't listen to them when that was going on. Why all of a sudden we were like, oh, now that we have a mutual hatred for someone, like we're good friends? We're not. We just spent 8 years, and then like 8 years after that, with the Iraq War and talking about how terrible it was that we were stuck in this quagmire, not just in Iraq but in Afghanistan too. Even like liberals had backed off from saying that was still good, or progressives rather. But like you're gonna say like they're like a war criminal, but you know what? He said something bad about Trump. You know, he's a man with integrity, and maybe we should listen. Like, it's like fuck off. And Liz Cheney is no better. I mean, she defended all the things her dad does. She again pushes all of that stuff in Congress. Was she Congress? Yeah, Congress. She pushed for all that stuff in Congress. She's an evil person too. It's not to say the person who primaried her is any better. Um, not that I'm aware. I'm not really fully sure of what her stances of war are, but you know, she's coming from the right.
Yeah,
It's entirely possible
I have.
that she might be a
I
kind
was
of
gonna say,
Trumpian on that and being like, no, we should kind of keep it to our own business for the most part, not completely. Um, or she could
from what
be
I
like a complete neocon on the issue. I don't know.
from what I gleaned, because I don't pay that much attention to politics. I did catch the whole Cheney thing, and even if I don't care about politics, that just still made me laugh that she got slaughtered like that. Because you know what, like we're
Slaughtered
talking
like the
about,
Miss Piggy she is.
I still think she's horrible, and I think her dad is horrible. So like I don't change on
Yeah,
that just because I don't like somebody else. I wasn't a Trump fan, but I still think these two people are horrible.
yeah,
So I was happy to see her go. But from what I understand, whoever she ran against was more of along the Trump line thing, because that does seem to be. I mean, not that that's unexpected at all, but that
yeah.
does
That's
seem
what's
to be
going
the
on right
trend
now.
so far in all the primaries and all the races that are heating up for I guess the midterms this year, right?
Yeah,
Um, that does seem the way that things were leaning, but though even the most of the people that are aware of that going on still annoy me because it's like, do you not remember, like, this is the pattern? This is how things always go.
yep.
Like, this is how it's gone since I've been paying attention to politics. It doesn't matter how bad anybody thinks any particular president, or as I like to call them, which I stole from Bill Buford a long time ago, the resident of the awful office. Um,
My
th-
favorite
you know,
autist.
what's that?
My one of my favorite autists.
Oh yeah. I lost track of him for a long time. I love Bill though. He was
Yeah,
great.
I haven't heard from him in a while. I hope he's doing well.
Yeah.
Him and Ben Stone.
Yeah. Well, Ben I saw last year. I know Ben's doing well because I recently was sent pictures that he was actually out of his house and visiting other people. So
Oh,
he's back
nice.
traveling again. Not super long distances, but he's out and about, so he's doing a lot better.
Ben, if
It's
you're
great.
listening, hit me up. We should do another guest episode. Sure.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
I could listen to Ben talk for hours.
Right. I just let him talk. You got the floor, buddy.
Oh. But yeah, this is like I said, I've been seeing this for so long, and this is just what happens. People they forget about that they had a problem a couple of years ago, or that this is just like the standard operating procedure. You get the D in that everybody hates. Okay, well, it's just going to swing Republican, and then it's just going to swing back, and it's going to swing forth, and
Yep.
that's where the people who the ones who are the libertarians, anarchists, whatever, the people that are still at least partially involved in politics, this is where they're all like, well, we need to do something, we need to step up so people can see there's another choice. So I can sort of see the argument why people would get upset with the tweet we were talking about,
Mhm.
and how it is, in a sense, it is bad optics. But I do kind of agree with you what you were talking about, that you kind of, after talking to those other guys, you were kind of like, well, wait a minute, is it really such a negative thing? Because the shock and awe, like, I don't think I was necessarily shock and awed into it, because I was a long time lefty, and I and I talk about this all the time. I was what Rush Limbaugh used to refer to as a useful idiot of the left. That's who I was. I went
Oh,
out
I
and
was a
voted.
watermelon. That's
Oh.
what Rush would have called me.
Oh yeah, no, I was just one of the ones who went out there and pulled the levers for the D's every 2 to 4 years, whatever, and didn't really pay attention too much against that, and was really railing against the right because that's what my parents were, and I was just trying to be a contrarian, and I didn't really care. So I kind of stumbled into all this. I mean, the most shock and awe I dealt with was I went through that transition that some people talk about, like, if you're in your 20s and you don't care about the poor or whatever, and you don't have a heart, and then if you're over 30 and you don't care about money, you're stupid type
Yeah.
of deal. Yeah, once I bought a house and started having to deal with taxes and all that crap, I was like, wait a minute, these lefties have been selling me wrong. And then I went right for a little while, and then I was like, well, these guys are idiots too. And I
Yeah.
just kind of stumbled into the Libertarian Party, but I didn't stay too long. And that was almost a decade ago at this point. And I know it's gone through. I mean, it got way worse for a while. I know it went more and more leftist, I guess, or progressive, whatever, for a while.
I don't think that's true. Go ahead.
Well, at least the Nationals seem to. what they were promoting and stuff like that. And then now that the Meekoks have taken over and they're swinging back in the other direction, I don't know. I mean, I don't really have a problem. I know a lot of those guys. I've known them for years. I don't really have a problem with them. I'm like, whatever, I don't. I'm used to dealing with the, oh, you're a racist, you're a white nationalist, whatever, like whatever gets thrown at them on the regular basis. And I know a lot of them personally. I know they're not. So I'm like, whatever, deal with the slings and arrows if you want to. I don't care. I don't want to play that game anymore. But um, this is, so I don't know. So what it did, I didn't have to be necessarily shocked. Well, I mean, like I said, to an extent, but not through the political aspect. But these guys, like, I think you're right. I think a lot of people, most people, a lot of people, 9/11, a lot of people coming to grips with the Iraq War, Afghanistan War, whatever things have come up, Obamacare. I know a lot of people that got pushed over the edge with Common Core originally.
COVID.
Everybody has their COVID. Yeah,
COVID was a huge one.
That was the latest one.
Yeah.
So yeah. People, like, if you look at it, if you take a step back and look at it from that perspective, yeah, you're right. How many people needed to be shock and awed into at least thinking in a different direction or stepping back from that binary? Well, it has to be one of these two. So in that respect, yeah, is that thing really that bad? I don't think so. Like I said, I think it's funny off the bat. I think, 'cause I hate both of them with a passion. I mean, on top of everything else about McCain, and also, like, even if you want to go well, he's a war hero. Okay, how many times did he get captured? He wasn't a very good war hero.
There was. I like people who weren't captured. Okay.
He was shot down multiple times, wasn't he? As far as I remember, at least twice. I thought he was shot down at least twice.
I know there's I don't know if it counts as a conspiracy theory or if it's true or anything, but I have heard people that I respect who go like, yeah, John McCain may have been given the Viet Cong secrets in order to get out of being tortured, and he has been referred to by people who I don't know, maybe I don't trust or whatever, but interesting people, let's just say that, as the songbird of Hanoi.
Yeah, I've heard those too.
Yeah. And, so who knows if they're true? It doesn't matter if it's true because all of the other things he has done since that has kind of like put it on there. And not only that, but so you're a war hero in a war that we shouldn't have been in. It was a complete quagmire.
Yeah.
There's no reason for us to go in, and the basis for it was just absurd. Like, we have to stop communism. Like, well, where are we going to stop it? Are we going to stop it in the Soviet Union? Are we going to stop it in China where it's growing like crazy? Or how about Cuba where it's right next door? No, we're gonna do it in Shuffle's deck, Vietnam. Oh, okay.
Yeah, well.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot of people died in that war and it was completely needless. Absolutely. Completely needless. So if you were a war hero in there, like, I commend you for saving some of your fellow people's lives, but honestly, like, I don't think you should have been drafted.
Yeah,
shouldn't have gone. Yeah, sorry. The government wasted your friends' lives, but yeah, I'm not trying to disparage any, like, because I remember I told my dad, like, I was against the Korean War, and he was like, do you think all those people died for nothing? And I'm just like, it's like, well, how do I say yes without, like, making you upset? There's no way, to tell you, like, yeah, some of the people that you know and grew up with, like, they died for nothing. It's sad, but it's true.
Yeah.
Nothing came of either of those wars except the ceasefire, and the war's not even over technically.
Oh yeah, isn't it still? Well, I thought they finally. I thought I saw something about that like a year or two ago that they finally actually signed something that said it was over, but maybe I was wrong. I don't know.
Oh, maybe I just didn't get the memo.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't.
Or maybe I didn't get that Michael Malice tweet. Because he's someone that probably follows it more than anybody.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like, so yeah, I don't know. Like, so I was of kind of two minds originally. Like, I thought it was funny. I thought it'd be a great tweet for someone like me to tweet, or maybe someone like, well, I guess Jeremy Coffman's running for office, but maybe if he wasn't, someone like that to tweet, or maybe
but have you seen the bombastic ads he's been putting out there?
I love him.
I do too, but I'm saying I don't know if it's past
no.
at this point.
Yeah, but now that I've come to this realization, I'm thinking like maybe those ads are, but I don't think those ads are in the same vein. They're not nearly as
no
quote unquote
still
tasteless.
Yeah, they're shocking on a different way. Yeah, okay. Yeah, so maybe he wouldn't right now, but I don't know.
Well, maybe he's the one that made that tweet. From what I understand, I
It's
think he has something to do with the with Twitter account. I'm not sure if he runs
it's
it.
possible. I don't think he runs it by himself, but I think a few of those guys have access. Those people up there have
Yeah.
access to it. So he very well could have. That would be brilliant if he put it out on the main account and not his own.
Yeah.
That would actually be a really smart move.
Now I know that like a lot of the libertarian parties are different, and depending on the states, depending on the counties, depending on like the individual groups. I mean, there's going to be like really shitty state ones who are better than others. Oh, anyway, before we get into that, you did say that like they were kind of ran by like kind of like lefties. I don't agree with that. I think they were kind of they were trying to appeal to the establishment and the current state of it's not really wokeness. It's just kind of the what they perceive as like what's okay to say in polite society according to like all the media outlets and stuff like that. And so they were trying to go down this thing where, and there are a lot of the like the people, which I was listening to Tom Wood's podcast with Jeff Deist, and there was something that he said that kind of struck my ear, and I was just like, yeah, I can imagine like some of the, like the the really core people like Nick Sarwark, like and his kind of like people that he rubs elbows with, maybe those people this would apply to. But he said that there's people in the Libertarian Party that like they're not so much that they prefer Gary Johnson to Ron Paul, but it's that they prefer Hillary Clinton to Ron Paul. And I was just like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the case for maybe some of them. But after seeing like a lot of these tweets and stuff, it's like pretty clear that there's a lot of people, like a lot of people who would prefer Hillary Clinton to Ron Paul, not just Hillary Clinton, but now John McCain. That's fucking disturbing to me.
Okay, so yeah, so I misspoke. They're not progressives; they're neocons.
Well, he wasn't really a neocon. I remember.
No, I was talking about Hillary.
Oh yeah. Touche. Yeah, I mean, like Hillary Clinton and the neocons were definitely on the 3x5 index card. I'm sure there was some wedge issues they disagreed on, but for everything else, they were pretty much on par.
Yeah. I mean, okay, I would agree with you that a lot of them were more just trying to cater. But I mean, the problems they had in some of the state parties, like New Hampshire, I think a lot of people, especially a lot of the Meekoks would agree, that they were straight out leftist or progressives or whatever. Yeah. They definitely weren't anything, like the bigger parties. I think they had a similar issue with the
Nevada was bad. Oh, Nevada
was horrible.
Nevada,
Nevada, Pennsylvania was bad. Leave me in my New York accent alone, all right?
No, that's someone trying to do a Mexican pronunciation of it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm gonna go get me some quesadillas. It's like, motherfucker, it's a quesadilla. It's a quesadilla. Anyways, yeah, sorry, go ahead. Nevada. What was you saying about Nevada?
Nevada. They were horrible too. I know Pennsylvania had a lot of issues, and some of the other states too. So I guess yeah. I mean, there. Okay, so maybe there were more people who were just trying to cater. But the problem with that is the longer you do it, the longer you start to feel, and those are the people you see come out. Because I think a lot of those people, while they may be seeming to lean more with wanting John McCain versus Ron Paul, I think they're still confused and don't actually know where they are, like where they stand, what they really. I don't think they actually have any principles, or at least not many that they hold to.
I think there's a new swayed. I think there's a new principle because there's like different factions in the Libertarian Party, and they're always constantly at war with each other. There's the kind of like I'm building myself into the Libertarian Party, but I want to be like appeasing to like voters because I want people elected because that's how I think policy should be enacted. There's those types of people. And they're also against kind of the more woker elements of it. Not all of it, but the woke stuff. Like the Socialist Caucus and that sort of thing. The Audacious Caucus. They're against all that stuff. But but I think right now, because they have been stripped of all of their power, their position is anything that the Mises Caucus says is true is wrong. And they'll take like hard stances against things like decentralism, like anti-war, just because the Mises Caucus have been so hard about like national divorce and ending all the wars and being anti-war. And I've seen a lot of it, and it's really kind of disturbing. And anytime I talk to a lot of these people, by the way, it's worth pointing out that I remember going to an LP convention, and it really wasn't one of these types. They were really consistent libertarians, but they were kind of small government libertarians, but they were like, I still think we need a federated system only for trade. But I think it needs to be dismantled pretty much all the way. And it's like, they still were like talking about getting rid of the army and stuff like that. And it's like, okay, maybe. And he had some arguments for it, but the arguments that I'm seeing from a lot of these people who were stripped of power have been kind of right. And there was this article that came up by Jonathan Casey. I guess he's like the head or the guy who founded the Classical Liberal Caucus, which is kind of, it seems like it's a reactionary caucus to the Mises Caucus, and a lot of their stances is just, let's be the opposite of everything the Mises Caucus says. And the too long didn't read version of this is, if you're a libertarian and you support these values, you should support them everywhere and not just in little small enclaves around the world. And so, no, we shouldn't divorce the United States, all these states from each other and have like 50 federated states, or maybe even just have like a clump of states that kind of group together, right? Where you have like, I don't know, like the South as one state, with a bunch of different states, have them be a federated system, or have Texas be like a Lone Star state, whatever. But it's like, okay, but why are we stopping at the U.S. border then? Like, why not expand it out and just have a one world government and put all these liberal tests to a vote? And it's like, well, no. I still think, we should have, still think, like all these countries should have like, borders. And it's like, well, hold on. Like, how come we're so against decentralism on one hand, or for the United States, but not for the rest of the world? It's like, I thought we were going to support it everywhere. Why are we now all of a sudden stopping? It's like, well, because we know that it's politically, like, liberalism in the classical sense is not popular anywhere around the world except for a handful of Western countries, and that's it. And they know that they can't get those votes in. But they think that they could possibly get it in the federal government, which that's also is absolutely untrue. I don't think the Libertarian Party or libertarian ideas are going to be popular on a federal level, because there's still a lot of states that are going to be like forever blue, especially ones with a lot of urban areas. But yeah, that was pretty much the other one. And then I think there was another one. It was just the other kind of argument was like, you're not any freer if you're in a tyrannical like city, let's say a city, versus a tyrannical state versus a tyrannical nation or a tyrannical world. And it's like, well, no, you are. If I'm in a like a little area, like if I'm in like a little neighborhood and the neighborhood has clamped down, like we're going to throw anybody in jail who smokes marijuana, and we're going to jail anybody who's gay, and all these other things that you can, count libertarians for being against. They're going to have all of those things. They're going to be a complete tyrannical government, even communist. It's still easier for me to leave that neighborhood than it is to like leave the state. And you can scale that out. Like, it's easier for me to move to a different state than it is for me to move to another country or another world. the further you get out, the harder it is for you to move. So having small little like neighborhoods that have their own kind of rules is a lot better, even if some are terrible, because it's easier to move across the street, and it's than it is across town, and it's easier to move across town than it is across county, state, federal or government, whatever. Like all that stuff, it's harder and harder. And even if they want to, box you in, it's still easier for me to escape North Korea than it is to escape, Beijing.
Yeah.
Because Beijing is in a giant country where, I got to travel a whole lot more. And then when I get out of that country, there's a culture change. And the further you get away, there's going to be a bigger and bigger culture change. There's a big culture change between Nevada and Texas. There's an even bigger one from any state in the United States to Canada or to Europe or those countries compared to like Africa or Russia or China. Like those are completely radical different things. And all of those things make it harder for you to move further and further. And every time I bring this up, I just get fucking crickets. Yeah, but we got to defend it everywhere. And by everywhere, I just mean the United States of America, not anywhere else. Thanks.
Yeah, screw that. I don't know. I have to defend it for me. I don't have to defend it anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, I was saying this earlier before we started the show. Like, my whole thing is I've national divorce great with me, but I've long been for the the whole Rothbard idea of taking secession down to the level of the individual.
Yeah.
Because if you can do it at this level, then why can't you do it at this level and the next level down and the next level down and the next level down? And for the same exact reason you're talking about, because it is, you know, I'd be happy with a bunch of the states seceding. I'd be even happier with counties seceding from certain states,
And then
that
cities. And
yeah, exactly.
yeah.
Like I threw some
Neighborhoods.
money back at I threw money back at the state of Jefferson years ago. I thought that I don't necessarily agree with everything that the people up in Northern California, Southern Oregon, and all that stuff that wanted to do that thing. I don't necessarily agree with everything they stand for, but I like their thought process. There's been a group up in upstate New York who's been trying to do it. They get less popularized, but they've been trying to do it for a long time.
Well, I'm from Utica, and I've never heard anything like that. This must be an Albany expression.
No, it's like Western New York.
I think you missed that joke. But anyway, go ahead.
Oh,
Steamed hams. Sorry.
Oh, there you go. Airplane. Yeah, so like I'm all for it, and yeah, I don't. I mean, not that I get into the arguments with these people anymore, but I agree with you. Like what you're like, because first when the way you describe it about how they think it should go the other direction and no go outwards, and then isn't that how communism was built? Didn't Marx want to use the state and grow it really big and then destroy it?
Yeah.
Like I don't know.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna work.
That hasn't worked out historically, so maybe let's not go that route. So
yeah. The trend for governments are getting bigger, not getting smaller. You have a few very fringe exceptions like Estonia or Singapore or Hong Kong, but for all intents and purposes, like they usually don't get smaller, and even still, like a lot of those states get bigger. They're just not getting as big as all the other states around them, or as big as fast they are going, right?
Yeah, but I don't know.
And besides, Texas should succeed. They should succeed at seceding.
There you go.
be our own country, but there is some kind of concern because there's a lot of kind of cultural views that they want to kind of clamp down on that I'm not completely in favor of.
Yeah, that's the same thing with Florida, where I legally live these days. They talk about there's not as much talk, but there's been talk about them seceding too, and like, yeah, I'm not fully on board with some of their, at least the way DeSantis runs things, but whatever, man. I'm still like, overall, I'd still like to see it happen.
I'm a bigger fan of Death Santis than I am of Abbott, but that's also I'm a bigger fan of those guys than I am of, I don't know, what the fuck is his name? Sisiak of Nevada, or why is his name slipping me? The guy who's governor of California, the one that they're thinking may run.
Oh, Newsom,
yeah.
Yeah. He's just a horrible human being.
Yeah, he's a horrible human being on every level. I can't wait for a tumor to happen so I can laugh at his daughters crying over his grave. Can't wait. Somehow I don't know if were we talking about it during the show or during off air? I don't remember. Libertarian welfare. The whole like people who want to take as much money. I think we were talking about.
I think it was before show. Yeah. I was talking. Yeah, my buddy Drew. Yeah, because you were mentioning the whole thing about the certain people in the Libertarian Party talking about wanting to get it up to the 5% so they can get federal funding.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah. My thing is, I used to be virulently against that. I mean, heck, I fought at the beginning when my kids were born, and my ex wanted to put them on Medicaid or Medicare. I always forget which one's which. Which is the old people, which is for everybody. And I was just vehemently against that, and taking any money from the government whatsoever. Went back in my ANCAP purist days, and then I realized, well, that's just stupid because they've already taken my money. And they're going to keep taking people's money. Mm-hmm. And the reality is, no matter how much I hate the state and wish it was gone and would be thrilled if it disappeared, it's here. And that's the reality I have to deal with. And if they're already going to keep taking the money no matter what, and I still don't take any, but there's probably things I qualify for or whatever. I just don't bother. But that's also because, I pretty much told the IRS to go fuck themselves years ago. And I don't play their games anymore. But my buddy Drew is like, screw it, man. He's like, I take everything they give me. He's like, and he lives a great life. And he's like, I don't care if people call me a welfare hoe. He's like, screw it. He's like, they've taken so much money from me over the years. I'm never gonna get that back. He's like, I'd never get it back any other way. So you know, it goes along with the whole. I guess I mean that was part of Conked's idea, right? The bleed the system idea, with the whole agorism thing about taking it.
I did a
You
whole
know,
video about why I disagree with that, but go ahead.
but I used, you know, I was for it for a little while, and then I realized it's not going to work. But on a smaller scale, you know, whatever, man, they're going to use it they're going to take it anyway, and it's going to go to somebody else if it doesn't go to you. So
Yeah.
why not? If you're using it, especially if you're using it in ways to create more autonomy for yourself, which is, you know, what I'm all about, becoming as free as you can in your life, in my lifetime. You know, since I long ago gave up the dream of seeing Ancapistan, and now that I don't want to see Ancapistan, well, I want to see Ancapistan so I can laugh at it and watch it implode.
Oh no.
But yes, sorry, not sorry. But I don't, you know, whatever version of my utopia, like I'm never gonna see it. So instead of like, I'm not giving up, but my goal for years now has just been as making myself as free as I can right now, and trying to set my kids up to be as free as they can too. And hopefully, you know, if they want to further that, great. You know, I'm just going to give them the tools. I can't do much beyond that. But I've been a lot happier for years ever since I've been doing that. I've been so much more relaxed. I used to be, I mean, I'm still an angry guy, but I used to be so tense all the time when I was worried about like fighting for freedom and fighting and trying to teach everybody and get everybody converted. And like, now I just don't care. You know, I'm living, I mean, in my mid 40s, I'm living one of the like, other than being separated from my kids, but that's been a whole issue between me and my ex, and like other issues with that for years anyway. But aside from that, I've been living the greatest life, man. I get to travel the country. I get paid for it.
You travel across the country with your dog solving mysteries.
Yes, exactly. Yes. And you know, we don't, you know,
like Wow Scoob. Yeah.
I live that was pretty good. I live, you know.
Soinks you, man. Soinks you right in the ass. We're the one putting our balls on the line, dressing up like barbers and offering monsters a free haircut. So go ahead.
Anyway, you know, I live freer than pretty much anybody I know through the whole COVID mess, because I just bounced around whenever they tried to impose shit in a certain place I just moved on, and it didn't really have to deal with it, and stayed away from all the mandates and masks and all that crap. So you know, I'm fine with people whoever wants to find their freedom in whatever way. And like I said, if you need to take some of those funds, if you're using it towards that purpose, great, man. Bully for you. Because they're not. I mean, it's going to implode eventually. It's just, I don't even know if I'm going to see that in my lifetime. They've come up with the FedGov and the parasites that be that actually run the world, whoever the hell they actually are. They've learned from their mistakes, but they've figured out all these tricks and stuff that they can keep. You know, I mean, in any like logical reality, the U.S. dollar should have collapsed years ago. They found ways to keep extending it, extending it. So
yeah.
they can keep going. I think I'd love to see the collapse, but I think they're going to be able to keep pushing it off even longer and longer and longer. They've figured out how to, you know, keep stupefying the public and then go, oh yeah, we can do this to fix it. Who cares if we're putting ourselves another, you know, ourselves in quotes, air quotes, another $10 trillion in debt? It's no big deal. You know, we're just gonna pass it on. You know.
Yeah, like I really don't like the whole like where everyone just feels like, oh, all this inflation is going to cause a dollar to collapse. Like these people have studied like why dollars collapse to the point where they know exactly where the limits are, and they can just ride the line just right to keep it going indefinitely while still screwing over as many people as possible for their benefit. It's not going to collapse like that. I'm sorry. They know where the line is, and that's why like all these politicians will promise like, oh, we're gonna do all this stuff and we're gonna fully forgive student debt loans, and then when they get in, it's like, we're not gonna do it. And then when they finally did it just recently, it was like, yeah, but it's only, you know, 20 grand. So you're only going to cover 20 grand and that's it. You're on the line for everything else. So they know where the line is, that, you know, they can balance it just right. So where everybody gets screwed, you know, middle class, lower class, poors, all of them, they get all screwed because they're the ones that get hit hard, the worst by inflation. All the big all the big governments the big corporation, well, governments too, but the big corporations, you know, they get that money first, so they get to enjoy it while it still has the value that it had when they first got it. while everybody else, by the time it filters out to them, then it's not worth as much, and it's just a wash or less than what they had before. Inflation is probably one of the most insidious taxes ever. Really is.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would agree. It definitely is. And yeah, and I agree. They think they I say this all the time. I mean, because that's how I came to all these ideas. I mean, I've talked about this before, but this is how I came to all these ideas. Unlike most of my friends who came through economics in some form, I came through studying history and realizing that we were lied to about a bunch of stuff. So I've gone back and looked at all this, and you can look at the collapses of all these empires and stuff. And yeah, the people that whoever it is who actually runs the show these days, they've had a lot of history to pour through and look at all these things, and are they perfect? No. That's why I think the whole, what's that quote? Never attribute to malice what could be explained by stupidity or whatever, something along those lines. I think it's a bit of both. A lot of these people are evil, and they do make mistakes because they are in some ways they are stupid and greedy and whatever, but they've learned enough, and that's why the average empire only lasts for a couple hundred years, and the good old USSA is pushing past that because they've learned from the mistakes
Yep.
of the other ones. I mean, how much did they learn from the Nazis? Who rose to power in a hurry.
Well,
That's
where we got
quickly.
the UFO technology. It's the Nazis,
that's
man.
super.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Area 51 raid. Let's go.
That was one of my favorite maybe probably psyop things in the past like 5 to 6 years or whatever, when they had that thing going where they were gonna raid. I so wanted to see that happen. Like, I don't want anybody to die unnecessarily, but I really wanted to see a bunch of crazy, like really high level conspiracy people out there going up against whatever force is actually stationed in it. That would be spectacular. It would have been great.
My favorite one, my favorite meme of that whole thing was like when you finally bust into Area 51 and you hear one of the guards say like, "Make sure they don't get past the reality portal." The what? Yeah.
Oh man.
But yeah. So I had done a video about like my problems with agorism, and it's not to say that like agorists are bad or they're doing something like harmful. I think like agorists, when they do things like sell drugs and that sort of thing, like the people who are like agorists, who are like ideological libertarians, are far better drug sellers and traffickers and stuff than the mafia. Like you're probably gonna not get killed over stupid shit. They're more. It's more of a safer environment. You're basically making the
more
black
ethical.
markets. Yeah. You're making it's making it more safer. Probably not perfectly safe. It's still probably going to be very dangerous in some respects. It's probably going to be like, like the Kokeshes in the world. Like, oh yeah, I totally agree with the non-aggression principle, but I'm totally going to abuse you once you're on my camp. There's still going to be like those types of people, but overall, in the general culture of it, it's going to be a lot safer. So in that respect, like I'm fine with agorists. Like I don't really try to like target them. The issue that I have is when they start going like, it's the only way to ever achieve libertarianism. Like, you don't know that, because it's never brought libertarianism to the real world ever. You can't say that one particular method is going to work when none of them have worked so far. Can't do it.
Yeah.
Maybe we can say that it could be a multi-pronged approach, and that's one of the tools that you can use. I don't necessarily find it to be the most effective tool in my opinion, but then again, it's just my opinion. That's fine. But to say like all the other attempts, are a complete waste of time. And a lot of it were like, well, why are the other attempts? And they'll always talk about, oh, the Libertarian Party is never going to work. It's like, well, yeah, I mean, duh. But like, there's other methods than just agorism and just party politics. There's other methods of bringing down the state, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's like, yeah, because when you first started saying that, the first person that popped in my mind was good old Sal the agorist, and I'm like, I like Sal, but he's one of those people it's the only thing, and if you're not being agorist, you're hurting the cause in every other way. It's like, dude, man, like I like the ideas. Konkin had some good ideas. Although I'm one of those people that contest that he stole a lot of them from the guy Rayo, who came like a decade before him and did the Vanu thing.
Yeah.
Which is if I align with anything these days, I probably most closely align with the whole Vanu strategy, because it's it's like agorism kind of, and it came a decade before it.
Yeah.
But it's more about using whatever means you can, because they're
By
all,
any
to
means
me,
necessary, right?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, you know,
Mussolini
I still
would
got
be
a,
proud.
yeah, exactly. Just obtaining freedom. However, I think all of these agorisms is a tool to me. Even anarcho-capitalism has become a tool to me. It's not an ideology. It's I pick and choose things from each of these, whatever I stumble across that works for me and helps me attain freedom while still not while still harming nobody else outside of the state, or people who work for the state, because they don't count to me as people to me. um, I'm all for it, and I'm not.
And you're gonna
I'm
laugh
still
at
not hurting anybody.
and you're gonna laugh at their daughters crying over their caskets, right?
Yeah, I am. Deal with it, bitch. I'm not. I don't lionize these people after they die. If they were horrible human beings when they lived, well, they're still horrible human beings dead to me. I don't care.
Yeah. Look, like, let's just say that my dad was some sort of awful person like McCain, right? But I still like had like a cordial relationship with him. I can understand. There's an example, right? But this is kind of a weird one. But when Reagan died, his son was not like a conservative at all. He was like a progressive Democrat, and he was like I love my dad. He was a great man. Like he raised us well, and he was a wonderful person and everything like that. Even though I disagree with his presidency and I disagree with his opinions, I can understand like making fun of him, grieving over his dead dad. That would be out of line, right? Or even if it was like someone who was just like never commented on their history, like if it was like the I don't know if the Obama twins have ever said anything about politics at all. If one of them died, then it's like, and they're sad about it. Like, I don't think that it would be cool to make fun of them because they've never commented on. I don't know what their positions are. They could, for all I know, they could be like, oh, I disagree with everything my dad did. For all I know, so that'd be kind of out. But John McCain's daughter has spent her entire. That's her career. That's her job, is defending his legacy, and moving it forward. So I can understand making fun of them. But anyways, the thing that I wanted to kind of push back on, I don't know if not that you were advocating it, but I think the one thing that bothers me is like, yeah, like if the government's handing out Social Security and you're retired, you paid in, quote unquote, paid into it. That's not really what you're doing.
Yeah,
you're paying other people until your time comes. It's a Ponzi scheme. But like if your time's around, like we might as well reclaim some of your money. The issue that I have is like when people go like you should get on welfare. Like welfare is like one of the things that I really hate more than anything that the state does, because it literally keeps people in poverty, and it creates like barriers to get out of poverty, because once you start making a little bit of money, then they take away all your benefits, and then you're basically poor for succeeding in the market. So like I have a part-time job, or I have maybe a full-time job that pays minimum wage, but I'm qualified for Section 8 housing. I'm qualified for WIC, so I have food for my kids. I have food. I have SNAP. I get extra money on top of that, and I have all this money, and then I get like a $2 or $3 increase. Well, my wages, my monthly wage has gone up, like let's say $200, but they're going to take all that stuff away from me. So now basically I'm in the hole, like $1,000-$2,000, because I have to pay all for that stuff out of my pocket. So most people go, "Oh, you're giving me a raise. Well, then I quit." There's a lot of people that do that, and they'll move job to job to make sure that they still keep a low.
In general, I agree with you. Like as far as most people are concerned, like that is the vicious cycle that unfortunately happens. I won't disagree with that at all. For somebody like my buddy Drew, though, like I understand it, because he actually knows the deal going in, and he's not putting himself in that position. He's just taking it. And again, I'm less stringent about being like virulently against these things now. I just don't care about it. Like I said, I don't do it personally, but I don't begrudge people.
No, I won't begrudge them.
This.
Yeah, it's not that I begrudge them. I just think that it's a bad idea to tell other people to do it, because then you're trapping them, because most people don't have the tool set to like know how it all works, and then they get stuck in it, and they're like, "Fuck, what do I do now? I don't know."
Okay, so maybe I'll talk to him. Maybe I should qualify that. Maybe if you got to pass a test first. You already got to be set up to where you already have a way that you can make money outside of the state, and you're working towards making
Yeah,
that even
yeah,
more
yeah.
possible. Like, which is what he was doing, because he's into microgreens, and I think now he's partnered up with somebody who does grass-fed beef and stuff. He's a farmer, dude. But he takes advantage of all those things.
I forget his name.
Who?
One of your co-hosts that I love to hate.
Oh, Dave. Dave Painter.
Okay, so it wasn't okay. That's the Dave. Okay.
No,
that's not
no.
Dave.
Drew Samples. He's
different person.
Drew's kind of big in the libertarian anarchist community. He does the Sample Hour podcast. He's been doing stuff for years, but he's all into like the farming and stuff like that. He does urban. Well, he was doing urban farming in like the ghetto of Columbus, Ohio. But then he found out he could, and he was doing really well. Like he had a great.
At least it's not Detroit.
Yeah, this is true. And Toledo is worse than Columbus.
Oh, that was Cincinnati. Sorry. Whatever.
It's not that bad. Toledo's horrible. But anyway, so I agree with you. It's not for everybody. But if like I said, I'm just not against it anymore. I don't care, man. If that's what you want to do, if that's what like, because the money is somebody else is gonna get that money, and it's not like they're not gonna stop providing it. They're not like the politicians are not gonna stop finding more ways to convince people to get on the dole so they can control them even further. That's just what's going to keep happening. So it's not going away anytime soon. And you can't the whole bleed the state thing. You can't do it either way by not participating or trying to bleed them that way. It's not going to work. Like you were saying earlier, they've figured out how to stretch this thing and keep riding the edge as far as the economy goes, and the money supply and all that stuff. They know what they're doing. So it's going to be around, man. So just do it. That's like I said, my thing. Do what you can to make, as long as you're not hurting anybody else. Do what you said. Do what you can to make yourself free, man.
I guess there is an argument to be made against people who are like not net taxpayers, who are taking more than they're putting in, because then they're basically taking from other people. But I don't know.
Yeah, well, that goes. Yeah, that I dealt with that during the whole border thing with the magtards and all the people who went, all the MAGA anarchists who all went, hardcore. I dealt the same thing with them. Like, I'm sorry, like what defines a net taxpayer?
Yeah,
you're saying all this stuff in this very abstract idea, and like, yes, okay, I understand what you mean in theory, but in reality, which is where most of these people have a problem, because most of these people who argue about all this crap, they don't live in reality. They live in these little bubbles in these towns they live in that they've never gotten out of. And they live in the equivalent of their mom's fucking basement. Like, get out and see the world. Get out and leave and see the country. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Or just realize that people, like, in reality, people don't live this way, man. And what actually defines a net taxpayer? How much money are you actually, like, what are you actually paying for when you're supposedly paying for the roads and all this shit?
Yeah.
I think when it comes down to it, none of us are net. I was just gonna say, I think only a very small percentage of people, a very small percentage, would actually be considered net taxpayers. So none of you people qualify either. So shut the fuck up.
And not only that, but like I really like the government spends so much ridiculous amounts of money on national security. And sure, we can say, well, that's not really security, but it's like it doesn't matter. It's still a service that you're provided, that you are paying for. That you're getting. You can't opt out of it, and you have to count it as part of your net tax burden. And at the end of the day, unless you're like a multi-billionaire or multi-millionaire, and even still you're probably getting all kinds of other kinds of like subsidies and stuff for your business. In order to stay competitive, you're probably not going to equal out either.
Yeah, so that's the only people who that was my point. So the only people who actually qualify under their own standards of this net taxpayer bullshit are the people that most people, even a lot of them, are supposedly against, whether it's for just bullshit talking point reasons or for ethical reasons or whatever. Like those are the people actually qualify. So where does that actually get us if we actually follow through with your plan? We're all still screwed. Yeah. We're still living in a quasi, or even at that point, full out fascist state.
Yeah,
that doesn't do us any good, man.
but then there's the other kind of turn. Is like, well, then, at least you have to try not to be an overburden.
I said, well, I mean, that's what I do these days. I don't take any free services that I could be getting. I go if I have to go to a doctor or something, I take myself to urgent care and pay cash. I pay for the road. I pay for the damn roads because I pay a lot of fucking fuel taxes. I try to avoid tolls, like I try to take non-toll roads as much as possible, but I have to with certain times, especially when I come to visit my family in New York. I have no choice.
Yeah.
You have there's no way
Or
without going like
Oklahoma.
75 miles out of the well, no, Oklahoma I actually get around without paying tolls too. I don't take 44. I take 66 all the way down when I have to cut through there. There's ways you can get around
35.
most of the country without having to
Or
pay
is it
these things.
35? Is it no? That's the 30. Is it the 35?
No, in Oklahoma it's 44. There's like exactly $5, and you have to have exactly $5 in cash because they don't take they don't give you change. They don't give you change. But no, but like I pay a ton of money in fuel taxes. So I'm paying for the roads. I pay for the stuff I actually use. I don't care about the national defense thing because it's all fucking bullshit to me. So whatever. Like if they're not going to protect me, if they're going to let me get drone strike, whatever. I'll take that fucking risk, man. I don't give a shit.
Well, they're preventing you from that happening, even though they're not doing a great job of it.
Yeah,
and you're paying for it anyway. So
yeah, but like when I go buy when I get my food, my supplies, whatever the fuck I need, I pay all the stupid state local taxes, and all that stuff too. So I pay for all the stuff I use. So I'm not like I think on the large part, I'm not taking I'm not taking advantage. Like those people would think. But again, I'm not really against if other people do. Whatever, man. Screw it. It's gonna be here. Do you?
Yeah. But yeah, like that's pretty much my problem with just like I call them like because the actual term for agorism is like that kind of whole system of belief that the only way to end the state is through counter economics, and everything else is a waste of time and or counterproductive or helping the state in some way. But most people don't use that definition of agorism. Most people use it as stand holder for counter economics. So I always just go agorist maximalists. That's a term I try to use. So that way, people who are in the nosebleeds on that important point don't come in and go, well, you don't have to do that. Doesn't have to be the only thing. It's like, well, if you're an agorist, yeah, but I'm not going to have this discussion. So let's just make a new term so that it's completely unambiguous for most people. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the purest in any camp, though, man.
Yeah.
They're, I used to be one of them. I hopped through a couple of those camps being a purist that way, and then just realized, well, this is just it's the whole idea of you're just replacing one god with another. That's all you're doing. You jump from being a status and being for one of the parties or any of the parties or whatever, and then you want to become a libertarian, then you want to become an anarchist, and you pick a camp. Like all you're doing, if you're that hardcore and purist about it, you really haven't gotten very far. Yeah. You've got some new ideas, but you still have the same mindset. And again, it's mostly because, at least in my perspective, it's because most of these people do not live in reality. They spend all this time arguing, to this day, still arguing on Twitter and their social media sites because they don't want to actually get out in the real world and deal with this stuff and figure out that, oh, maybe some of this stuff won't work outside, Oh, especially, that's why, I still love picking on all the hardcore ANCAPs who, for years are just pounding communism works great on paper. I'm like, you guys are the same fucking way. Your shit works great on paper too. Welcome to the real world, bitch.
Well, communism doesn't work on paper.
Oh.
They must be missing something if they think that communism is supposed to be this wonderful great thing, and every single time it's been tried, it's been a complete disaster.
It's not real communism, man.
Well, you know what? I hate that. I really do.
I do too, because for the same reason, because I make fun of the ANCAPs. It's not real. It wasn't real capitalism, man. Shut up, man. You make the same arguments. You're all the
I'm a big tent when it comes to the word capitalism, because I think capitalism is just like a broad term to describe like a family of different economics prescriptions, and that's why we say anarcho-capitalism to distinguish that from other types of capitalism. That's fair.
Okay, I can get down with that. Well, no, I can, because I mean, economics to this day is still not my strong suit, but I've learned enough over the years that I can see the differences between Austrian economics, which anarcho-capitalism essentially built around, and any other school of economics.
Well, there's also Chicago Gang. I'm Chicago Gang.
Yeah, well, I know you're more Chicago guy.
Chicago Gang.
I think they got some great ideas, but I don't know. I guess I never lost out from my ANCAP days. I still probably hang more Austrian, but it's probably because my Bob Murphy is like my favorite living economist, so I just kind of follow him around.
I like David Friedman, but Bob Murphy is
I think
great.
I like David too.
Yeah, everybody thinks that like
I like
once you are no longer an Austrian, you have to hate all of them. It's like no, I still get a lot of value from listening to people like Kinsella and Block and Hoppe and all this other stuff. Even though I don't agree with them on everything, and not just even economics, but just on like cultural things and that sort of thing. I can disagree with them on a lot of stuff. Like I have a lot of disagreements with Tom Woods on a lot of things, including Catholicism. But that doesn't
Oh yeah, me
necessarily
too.
mean that I can't get any value from listening to some of his stuff. Um, yeah, I
Yeah, I
listen to
haven't
a lot
missed
of
an
people I
episode.
disagree with.
Other than the last week that I haven't been on the road and listening, so I'm like a week behind. I don't think I've missed a single episode of his damn show. But I don't agree with everything he said. I've just
Yeah.
been listening since the beginning, so I've listened to all 2,000 whatever episodes of him.
Should we? I think we should probably touch on some with Tom Woods because I don't think we mentioned it on any of the other shows. But there was a thing that kind of came out about Tom Woods being a quote unquote groomer. I hope that's
Yeah,
probably should no not me. I mean like a pet groomer, like he grooms
yeah,
cats and dogs and stuff. But
yeah.
but he did like I think he met his ex-wife when she was 14. They started dating when she was 16, and then got married when she was 18. And there's a lot of people throwing that G word around. I don't think that's an accurate term for that. The G word is for when you're conditioning prepubescent people into doing that because they don't have an understanding of any kind of thing sexual at all.
Yeah.
I'm trying to avoid using these terms so that the algorithm doesn't bring this whatever. Uh, goddamn YouTube algorithm. Yeah, so like you're trying to teach children who are not understanding of all that stuff. Where he was like a very hardcore trad Catholic. There was no evidence or no claims, even by the disgruntled ex today, or even the whatever. The only issue that the family had was like they were doing it behind the parents' back, which we could say that okay, that's probably not good. Probably a little bit weird that he was so old and she was so young, but I don't think that's the right term. I think we can kind of say like, yeah, it's kind of gross, but
Well,
comparing it to it being Epstein.
I think the only reason that term was getting used against him is because it has become repopularized recently with Disney getting attacked with that.
Yeah.
So it was out in the ether. People were using it a lot, and people, like I said, I've listened to the guy. I mean, I credit him with being my turning point because he's the one who kind of convinced me all those years ago. I came after the Ron Paul movement, and I actually learned about Ron Paul through him.
Yeah.
The reverse of what most people did. Most people learned about him through Ron Paul. And like I said, I don't agree with everything he said. When I heard all this happening, I kind of looked into it a little bit, and I was like, yeah, it's again bad optics. But I mean,
well, that's not really optics. It's just bad. I mean, because that happened long before he was even a libertarian. So
yeah, but my initial reaction was have you met this guy? Have you talked to him? Have you been following for years? At that, he was a dork.
Yeah,
he probably couldn't get any other way. Like
I don't think he did until he got married.
He was like a borderline autistic. Like he's not, but he was like a borderline autistic, straight-laced right wing or whatever conservative back in those days. And a nerdy guy who went to Ivy League schools, and probably didn't get a lot of play.
No.
And the story I heard was that actually they met when she was 15 because he was tutoring her or somebody else in the family or whatever. And I thought he waited till she was 18 till they started dating and then got married a year later or something like that.
Or yeah, so it was something like I'm sorry if I got any of those details wrong.
I don't actually know. I didn't follow it that closely, but I wasn't going. Like I said, that was just my first thought. He was a freaking nerdy guy. He didn't get like whatever. What I appreciate if when my daughters reach that age, if that happened, as a dad, I would probably be like, yeah. All right, listen, dude, we have to have a talk. But I mean, even from a biological standpoint, I mean, it's widely considered like consensus science at this point, right? That women mature faster than men, and that we're idiots until we're like at least 25.
Yeah.
So like it is possible for a more mature, like I'm not saying I agree with it or whatever, but I think the term was just definitely used to bash him because they just they've been looking for ways to take him.
Yeah.
People like him, Dave Smith, they've been trying to take them down for so long, and I'm almost positive it's almost all out of jealousy. Especially those two have managed to make a killing out of the podcasting world, which none of, I mean, we've all been at it for, you and I have been doing this stuff for, I mean, I've been doing this since 2015.
Yeah.
I've made no freaking money off of this. And I
I
actually had a
mean,
pretty success. Like the Seas of Liberty was a fairly, like we used to get as many downloads as the Fiends got back as a nationally syndicated radio show back in the day. So we were doing pretty well. We still didn't make any goddamn money. These guys have made careers out of it.
yeah.
Okay. And there's definitely jealousy attached that they just can't. I mean, I went to look what he said about it. He kind of shrugged it off. The only thing I saw was that supposedly the one sister came and said something, but then Heather never even came and backed that up. So, and whatever. It's not like he did this and then he used it, abused it. They went on to have 5 fucking kids together.
Yeah.
Like it was a legit, by all accounts, up and toward the last couple of years, whatever, was a happy marriage.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know. Yeah, I think it was just used to try to demonize him, and it was definitely bad terminology because it's not accurate at all.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, as far as I understand the term and what it was being used for to attack certain people, I don't think it fits the qualifications. But I think it's also not a good look for old Tommy.
Yeah. I would say I'm going on 40 this year. Finally going to turn 40. I'm getting out of my 30s. But I think of the prospect of dating a 22-year-old, 22, and I go, ugh. I have to talk to this person. I really can't stand talking to anybody under the age of 25.
Dude, I'm in my mid 40s, and I'm thinking below 30. I'm thinking below 35. I don't think I have that much.
Yeah. It's like
just no.
Like I have dated like women that are significantly younger. Nothing as close as that. And it's one of those things where it's like oh yeah, like I remember like do you remember Pogs? And they're like no, I was like 3 when Pogs came out, and I'm like, oh god. Stuff like that. Like the last girl that I dated, she had like Super Nintendo games, but it was like that's what I played when I was like 5, and I was like, oh my god. Like Super Nintendo came out, like I was mowing lawns. I was old enough to be like mowing lawns for it. Like, geez, I'm old to buy my own. But yeah. Yeah. So like, I don't think it's great. It's kind of gross, but I don't. At the same time, it's kind of like, all right, but this is something that happened a long time ago. This is not like nearly as terrible as it is. At least it sounds. It's kind of like, but as far as we know, and it doesn't seem like there's any evidence to point to it anywhere that he had sex with anyone who was considered a minor. At least in my eyes, 18 is fine. I really would like if they raised the age of consent to 21. Like I would not be like really pushing to object that. I think that's fine. But at the same time, it's kind of like, yeah, I think they're old enough at 18 to where that's fine.
Yeah.
16, that's where I'm just like, bro. No. Something's happening. But anyways, I don't want to go down that fucking rabbit hole because that's a terrible rabbit hole, and everybody's got a different opinion on it. And then if you stray anywhat from that opinion, you're a pedophile. You fucking hate it. Fucking hate it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I do think actual pedophiles need to be well, you know what you do with maps, right? If you have a good map, you put it against the wall, right? That's what you do with a good map. You put it against the wall. Let me just put it that way.
There
right?
you go.
Get some thumbtacks and put it up against the wall. So what have you been doing? Got anything to plug?
Well, I mean, I'm still doing well. I don't know. We'll see. I'm having issues with my business partner, but what the hell? I'll give it a plug for now anyway. I'm still doing the online magazine RTA Road to Autonomy. We put that out once a month, and there is a podcast that goes along with it that we usually put out once or twice a month. So all that crap you can find it. What is it? RTAmagazine.com. You can find all of our stuff there. We got some cool stuff going on there. We're doing some promotions now, and I don't know. All things autonomy. So, we're trying to get people, that's the only thing like I said, the only thing I care about is being as free as I can right now. So we just give tips and tricks of people, how they can be more free in the, taking care of themselves and just, all that kind of crap.
Yeah. Maybe we should put out some spicy tweets.
Yeah, we actually have a Twitter account. I just never use it. I think I forgot the password. I have to look it up.
You know, Dick Cheney's going to go anytime soon. He was never in good health when he was in office, and you know he should be good to go. Like, should be some good Liz Cheney jokes that we can make pretty soon here.
Hey, I'll get back on Twitter just for that.
Oh, I can't wait to see.
I always thought John McCain was horrible, but Cheney's definitely even worse.
Oh yeah. I agree. I think he's way worse. And I can't wait to see that little Miss Piggy cry. We got 2 Miss Piggies gonna cry.
I really hope she actually goes through with running for president. That's gonna be hysterical.
Oh my god, please! This whole election is gonna be absolutely hysterical. And it doesn't matter if Trump or DeSantis gets the nomination. Honestly, I think I had some pushback from some of my friends saying that like DeSantis was probably going to be worse than Trump. But at the same time, I think Trump was not very politically effective.
No, not at all.
Yeah. Like once he got into like his skill set just did not fit in the White House too well, and there was a lot of mistakes that he made. That had he not made those mistakes, like he definitely wanted to push some of the agendas that he wanted to push for good or bad. Deregulation good, you know, killing people overseas bad, you know, that he could have been much more effective on. And
oh, yeah.
God, fucking, why did he had to make a rock star out of Fauci?
Yeah, well,
And I'm so glad.
At least he's finally leaving.
Yeah, he's finally leaving. He killed enough gay people in the 80s. He should have retired back then.
Yeah. Well, that's not that I want to go down this because we could go down this path for a while.
Well, hey, I did a 3-hour show with Sherry last episode, so.
Oh, I know. I heard that show.
Everybody loved it. Yeah.
But I gotta get my kids are downstairs. Well, at least one of my kids are downstairs. I gotta get down to see them. But I will just say, I mean, the guy got away with it twice.
Yeah. So yeah,
the same exact playbook too.
So go ahead and plug your website one more time.
Oh, so yeah. So you can find all the stuff that I do. I usually put out podcasts once or twice a month, and we do put out a magazine. So rtamagazine.com. You can find links to all our crap there. And other than that, man, it's just me and the dog traveling the country, solving mysteries, you know, in our van.
Yep. And you can always go to Lolberts.locals.com to support us there. We still have a Patreon active, but I don't post anything on that because I don't trust Patreon at all. There's still like 2 people supporting me there, guys. If you're listening to this, come to Locals. It's a lot more good. That's where I'm posting like not daily pod, a lot of driving where I'm just driving and chatting in my car while I'm going to work, top stuff. And we didn't get any super chats today, but you know, if you want to leave a super chat for next episode, you can go to tips.jimjesus.com. Worms and Hail Mephi.
Worms.